Yes. Yes, it's October already, October 2023, if you can believe this. And we are almost to the end of the year. It seems like it just flew by, especially when we got to March and April of this year and the astrological transits we went through. We were coming out of a place in the beginning of the year where there's all these planets in retrograde, and then we started to push through the spring and then push through summer with a major Venus transit. And all of a sudden, here we are at October 1st. This video, I'm going to talk about 4 to 5 things for this week. Not going to do an October forecast because if some of you don't know, I did an October forecast for the Astrology podcast with Chris Brennan and Austin Coppock. I want to thank them for having me on the show. I know some of you are new here watching this. You watch that. For not, I'm going to put the link up here so you could check it out. That's a 3-hour forecast with the second half dealing with all the important parts of October. The rest of this month, I'll probably do weekly videos breaking it down with my own weird thoughts and versions of things. So let's jump to all of this. I'm making this video a late Sunday night trying to catch up with my life on October 1st. I'm in the Pacific time zone. I do want to mention when I started to think about this video, it's 6:36 p.m. Pacific. There was a moon in Taurus and Jupiter in Taurus, a moon-Jupiter conjunction, something I like to keep track of personally for myself because I'm deeply affected by this. But if you're a Scorpio or you're a Taurus, you have moon Jupiter, especially for your Tauruses, for a year. So you want to always make a note of it, right? And I actually like the aspect. Regardless of the relationship it makes to other planets at various times, moon Jupiter is, I could say, buoyant. I could say the extra glass of beer, the extra bite of chocolate, the extra emotional connection to the resource building that you've been doing since May. We know Jupiter's retrograde right now will be to the end of the year, but we want to acknowledge this. So October 1st, Moon-Jupiter conjunction in Taurus. We're going to jump right into the day of October 2nd, which you'll probably watch this video on that day. And, well, what's that? That's a window that's not there. That's mercurially unexpected. You see that? Those two little eclipse videos right there. But that's not what we're here to talk about. So, as you can see, I do things on the fly, sometimes not with heavy editing. We're going to get to this October 2nd, Monday, early in the morning. We have a dream world aspect. As a matter of fact, if you watch this on Monday, I am just really curious about the dreams that people are having Sunday night into Monday and even into Tuesday, whether it's daydreams or dreaming or how communication is flowing in general. The reason is, and I will point this out for you, is we are going to go to Mercury and Virgo here in the chart to 25 degrees. And it is making an opposition to Neptune and Pisces exactly at, I have 8:34 a.m. Pacific time. So we know this is building a little bit the last couple days. But it was just on the last day of September where Mercury had an aspect to Uranus in Taurus, a trine. And so we had this amazing lightning bolt of a connection from Uranus connecting to Mercury in Virgo here, where the Mercury in Virgo that was flowing when it comes to details and dissemination and taking things apart and putting them back together again, has had a lightning bolt of energy, progressive thought, something new, something coming out of the blue, something surprising, something with a little bit of a rush to that Mercury in Virgo to give them that extra something, the extra idea, the extra alternative way of communicating and formulating. And it's the day and a half later then that Mercury runs into Neptune and to have a dissolving type of filter on that just after this bump from Uranus. So this is fascinating. This is where the words get lost. This is where what is the truth and what's not. Mercury in Virgo is down to find the truth in general and what the facts are, right? In detail, right? Especially coming out of a retrograde cycle here so many weeks ago. So it's trying to still dial that in. And here's where Neptune throws some shade on there. Now, I can go off on the darker side of this. I'll just keep it simple. Lies, deceit, confusion. But in oppositions, if we are trying to think about it in a simple way, we want to branch the two together. this is a great transit if utilized and you understand the dynamics going on between the two planets and the signs, that can be used for something creative, like creative writing, an imaginatory way of thinking. That sometimes, even though Mercury is at home in Virgo and it flows there, sometimes needs a little bit of a breaking out. Here's an example. Virgo's end goal a lot of times with energy and thought, right, will want to make things perfect. And as we know, we only get glimpses of that in our life or in our head. Or we can come up with something that seems perfect in our brain. And Mercury in Virgo is trying to do that. It's trying to find purity and perfection. You know, Pisces tries to find purity in another way, through transcendence, through imagination. So they have this in common. So in one way, if Virgo is off kilter and is running on this high energy and it's still not getting what it needs or wants, sometimes one has to step away from the quest of perfection. And the way one does that from the Virgo point of view is they take a little lesson from Pisces, as in they let go of the quest of perfection, that the imperfect is perfect, right? So this is one way to look at a Neptune Mercury, that it can be used here. But yes, let's just be real. Imagination, lies, deceit possibly, or just super daydream world here, right here. You know, that's why I said, you know, how your dreams doing here, especially if you have planets in mutable signs here. So that happens on 8:34 a.m. Pacific. Within a couple hours, I want to point this out because it's not an aspect that gets talked about per se, but I want to point to Venus, which is here at 24 degrees Leo. We got less than a week left to Venus being in Leo, okay? And it still has 4 degrees from this 24 place to 28 degrees to get to the place where it turned retrograde months ago, okay? Important week for Venus. It's been like that for every week since June, right? But here, Venus is pretty much hit all the other planets. It just had the Venus-Uranus square here on the past Friday of the full moon in Aries, which was definitely imprinted on this. The last time Venus squared Uranus 3 times in the summertime. It squared Jupiter 3 times. It squared Chiron 3 times during this whole process. So you're thinking, okay, it's coasting to Sunday where it changes here on the 8th. But here's an interesting place, because if you look at this at 24 degrees and we look at the nodes, South Node in Libra at 24, we have Aries at 24. It's at the midpoint between the two, and it's trining. Fire, Venus and Leo fire is trining Aries North Node. They're both fire, so trining. And that fire, Venus and Leo, is sextiling air, Aries. We have such an interesting thing here that's almost sort of part of the setup for the month of October that has to do with Aries and Libra and the eclipses coming and the whole dynamic between power plays, so on and so forth, in relationships to yourself and to other people. But Venus here, the relationship planet, after going through everything the last so many months, throws a little bit of its brightness. And it's in between the nodes here. And we know that it's ruling the Libra South Node. And at the same time, we know currently that Mars, is at 23 degrees Libra right here, and Mars rules Aries. So we have this interesting dynamic, and Leo throws her creative fire here, her passion, her instinct to show her creativity and everything she's learned since June in a harmonious way here with the nodes. We take this one because what happens afterwards here with the nodes and the eclipses and Mars in Libra isn't easy. It's difficult. We got a hint of that difficulty on the full moon in Aries. But here we have some sort of knowledge being imparted. And we have to remember this about Venus. Newly morning star. It's actually getting to its maximum elongation here very soon, within weeks, and it's bright there in the morning sky. There's something there, a piece of balance, to balance these scales of the nodes and to balance this South Node in Libra and the Mars in Libra story. So I want to just point that out here, that 11:45 a.m. exactly, Venus is trining the North Node and sextiling the South Node in Libra. Pretty good. And then we don't get pretty good for a while. It's challenging for almost the rest of the month on this when it comes to the nodes. So I wanted to say that for October 2nd. Here we go to the 3rd, Tuesday, Mars Day. And interestingly enough, it seems to be another mercurial week. And we now look at Mercury here at 27 degrees Virgo, coming out of the opposition with Neptune. And here at the later degrees of 27, it makes a harmonious trine with Pluto in Capricorn, one of the centerpieces of this month's astrology of October. Reason being, it's connected to the eclipses, it's connected to a Mars square Pluto transit, it's connected to Mercury in Libra eventually that will go at the heart of the sun for a conjunction at these degrees. This 27 late cardinal degree is probably one of the most pinpointed degrees of the month. And not only that, we know, or we come to find out in the middle of the month, that Pluto will not be retrograde anymore and will be stationing forward. Here, Mercury in Virgo, after its whole journey through the outer body planets, it had a connection to Saturn and Jupiter, Uranus, Neptune, like we just had this past weekend on how I began this forecast. It throws the last something with Pluto here. And here's where we get to the depth finally. We get to the secret that Mercury in Virgo has been looking for months now because of the retrograde cycle and everything. So it gets to actually manifest itself in the way I think it's wanted to the whole time, to get to the heart and the details of whatever project it's been trying to deal with and disseminate and put back together, whatever regimen and system that's been being refined and reviewed and looked at in many different ways. It finally hits the power point with Pluto here, trining Mercury, bringing that one last underground secret, and that secret that connects with the preciseness of Mercury in Virgo, which creates a power grab in a good way, especially if you have stuff at these degrees. 27 mutable, 27 cardinal. You take this one because we know cardinal degree wise what we have coming up at these degrees is a complete struggle afterwards. So we start the week or since the last day of September all the way here into Tuesday is Mercury land again. And it doesn't stop there actually, because that happens at 12:19 Pacific on Tuesday, and we actually are going to go to the next day to Mercury Day here. I have Wednesday here. You could see this here. This is how I'm working on the fly. I usually do the live streams like this. So here we are. I'm like, okay, it's Mercury Day today, right? So what's going on this day? And Mercury, when it came out of the retrograde, each day it's moving faster and faster in the sky. So now we just were looking at the day before at 27 degrees, and it's the next day, 24 hours later, and you could see here that Mercury's 2 degrees up now at 29 degrees. Mercury's blazing like it loves to do, and it's getting things done. In Virgo, it's like, just hit Pluto. It still has remnants of Pluto power and the secret come into the plan to fulfill the system, so it works that ideal of purity through systems and efficiency, right? So we have this, and here's Mercury at the last degrees. But what happens? 9:06 a.m. I'm going to get to the Mercury story. You're going to see how I'm building this up. I'm going to switch this up here. Mercury's doing its thing right now. It's about to do something within a couple hours of this chart that I have here. It's 8:34 a.m. But we know that at 9:06 a.m. specifically, we're going to look at Mars at 24 degrees, and you could see now it is at this rambunctious south node place where here things are cut and severed in relationship structures, or there's a chess match going with the politics of relationships with Mars and Libra connected with the south node. Okay, so we need to pay attention to this, and we also know because it's conjunct the south node, it's also opposite the north node. It was just a day and a half before that Venus was harmoniously trining and sextiling this, and here comes Mars to shake that so-called harmonious stuff that was there that Venus and Leo brought. Now Mars and Libra is messing with it, even though it's still on the outside with Mars and Libra, looks tranquil, peaceful, we're negotiating, it's all that. There's something behind it all that's not completely being said, and because of it, there's a tension involved. The truth isn't fully out in the open. There's a little bit of a dodging of what the truth is in relationships or wherever Libra is in your chart. and Mars is accentuating this. And Mars doesn't flow well in Libra. It's not its home. So we have this opposition and its conjunction with the node. Another chapter in the story as we get closer to the mid-month and the eclipses that are happening around this area of the chart. So, a lot of Libra stuff. But what happens within hours after this? And it's also a mercurial story. But we're going to look at Mercury now. And it just enters Libra. So the Mercury ingress into Libra happens at 5:08 p.m. Pacific. We talked a lot about this on the podcast. But basically now we have Mercury that's bringing his story in Libra along with this eclipse story and along with Mars in Libra. Okay? And it's basically going to hit all the degrees that Mars is hit in Libra as the sun in Libra is hit. And it's also eventually going to hit some other planets, outer body planets. Most importantly, down the line, it's going to touch Pluto at the last degrees of Capricorn. So we're making a note here that Mercury's bringing up the rear here. After Mars in Libra, it finally leaves Virgo and starts off a story. More communication in relationships, more charm through words, right? The listening, if we just think about Mercury and Libra, is going to listen to everyone's story. Everyone has an equal say, the attempt at least at that. It's not supposed to be a caustic conversation. Mercury and Libra sets up an environment of harmony so everyone's opinions can be heard with some glass of wine, some grapes on the table, some cheese, brie, crackers, nice colors on the wall. We set this up so we can debate and everyone has their say and opinion and everyone's heard. Typically, right? But here we get a little bit of that and that's fine. But down the line, it's not going to be like that in my opinion. So that's what happens on Wednesday, October 4th. We know the next day on the 5th, the moon is going to go into Cancer, a cardinal sign. Eventually, it's going to square that Mercury that I'm talking about. And kind of start off this difficulty in conversations for Mercury and Libra. It only gets a little bit of that harmonious stuff like for a half a day. And then, we go into the moon in Cancer and on Friday, and it squares off with Mercury. When we get to Friday the 6th, moon still in Cancer, moving through. There's small aspects involved, so on and so forth. I do want to point out Saturday the 7th. There's a lot of aspects that the moon has, but I do want to point something out here. The moon goes into Leo on Saturday, October 7th at 4:24 p.m. This is the last time the moon will be in Leo while Venus is in Leo. Okay? And let's just make a note of it because at this point, and I'm almost done here with the forecast, at this point, we see the moon in Leo at 0 degrees. We're going to look to where Venus is at 29 degrees. This is the last time they're together like this for a long time. So we want to acknowledge this. And we know that it's the end. And so I think here the moon in Leo and what she is expressing, so on and so forth, it's a type of thing here that we've done every month since June. Okay? I won't go too deep into this, but we just want to acknowledge it. Say goodbye to a story that is, to me, for those of you new to the channel, the most important transit I thought this year. There's all the outer body planets, Pluto going to Aquarius, and Saturn and Pisces. They're all there, but I think from a tangible level, from a place where it really affected everybody in a certain way, and it was the talk of the town, of your world, that this finally ends since June, and I think the type of transits that Venus bring are very in our face. Actually, any inner body transit, like a Mars transit, a Venus transit, Mercury, there's times it's hidden, but pretty much we see it trigger things that are very tangible and very clear to us. And this Venus transit, I think, has been super clear, even during the retrograde and the hardship it brought to people who were affected by it. This is where we really truly learn. And if you don't know astrology and you're not into the depth of it or whatever, you find yourself here, you're still affected. I think you still understand a Venus story. We're dealing with love. We're dealing with relationships. We're dealing with self-worth, money and resources, the feminine, right? So those are easy things for people to understand, and the common things in people's lives every day. I'll tell you as a practitioner, what's the number one question I get? It's money and love. It's either in the same question or one after the other, but that's pretty much it. There's other stuff that's more important, but that's what it is. So, and not only that, we've been able to track this stuff in the sky. So, we saw Venus was evening star before she disappeared and made the conjunction with the sun. Now, if you wake up early in the morning, you see Venus. It's right there. You don't have to know astrology. You're staring at a bright-ass Venus up there. And within months, you saw it at night and you see it in the morning. If you don't know astrology or even myth and archetype, you could think about, it was the dark at night. You saw dark and it disappeared and it came up in the morning. It's like energetically, one on instinctual levels, like morning, new, like go out into the world, show yourself, right? So this is where we're at. And even though Venus is going into Virgo, which I think it's a great transit, to be honest, I think the continuation of the story and what Venus can do in Virgo to continue what is learned through Leo is just, I think it's great. Now, I'm going to do a video on this down the line because I'm actually going to do a video next week on Venus and Virgo. So, but I just want to give you the heads up on that. So that happens pretty much, that's Sunday. And I think it's an amazing thing, and we want to acknowledge, and anybody of you out there, you did it, you got it through, you're affected by this, you celebrate it, okay? There's a lot that happened to Venus. Plus, Venus, I think, just likes to celebrate in general. In Leo, you get to do that even though it goes into Virgo that day before it gets real chill and quiet. So do that. So Venus goes into Virgo at 6:10 p.m. Pacific, but at 6:04 minutes before, we have an exact Pluto-Mars square, which is huge. And I think it's interesting that this happens on the day that Venus leaves Leo. And at the same time, it's a Venus-Mars story. We have Mars in the ultimate power play struggle with Pluto. Now, it doesn't just happen at this moment. It's been building up for weeks, okay? So it built up in the last week when I started this talk, that when Pluto was connected with the South Node. So we build up to this weekend Sunday for a monumental Sunday of Venus leaving a story into Virgo, and at the same time, one of the hardest aspects you can find, explosive aspects that you can find that could blow things up and put things into pieces, as in severing Mars, power blowing up, Pluto, complete challenge and power struggle. If you have planets at these degrees in cardinal signs, and you're watching this before this weekend, you already got a heads up. I think you already got a heads up this past Friday with the full moon, and we could go all the way to the end of April of this year where you can get a heads up. And the reason is that's when we had the first eclipse that happened. The new moon eclipse that happened at the last degrees of Aries at 29 degrees. Chiron was with it too. And here we are, 6 months later. We haven't hit the next eclipses yet. It's very soon. But the precursor to all this is a major Pluto-Mars fight. And here is where the old is going to hold on and secure its power, and where Mars is going to try to push through that power, and it's not happening. Can something be remediated and solved here? I usually will come up with some solutions. We talk about it in the other podcasts, but honestly, this is brutal. It's brutal. It can be brutal. So, watch yourself. So watch your speech, watch your actions. If you feel like you're being clamped down by some authoritative structure or person or some kind of thing where you're not feeling balanced in the relationships, you need to figure out and understand what to do for yourself to put yourself in a place of struggle. And if you could step out of that. But it's really hard in storylines, whether they have to do with relationships or money or family. It's always complex. And here, somehow, some way, there's something breaking here. And it's never going to be the same in these areas of the chart. 27, 28, 29 degrees cardinal. Aries is a cardinal sign. Cancer. Libra, Capricorn. All right. So, hey, I pulled this fast one. It might not seem fast. I need to do this because, and I'll end the video this way. If you made it this far, some of you are new and you just found me. Some of you have been with me for the last 2 years. I'm going to tell you that my life has fundamentally changed in the last 48 hours since I made this video, and probably will here for the month. I've had other irons in the fire, from client base to something up to projects I'm working on. And so I'm going to do the best I can to put some videos out here. I got a live stream coming up here on the day that Venus goes into Virgo. On the day of this Mars-Pluto square, it's called the Empower Hour. I put a phone number up on the screen. People call in. They're heard. We can all hear. And I do their chart for about 7 to 10 minutes. I try to do a bunch of these charts within an hour and a half. I also talk about other things. That's what I'm leading up to here on Sunday. I hope you can join. If you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, but hit the bell, because the bell will tell you when I go live. I already have it listed on my YouTube page of what's coming up, but I was like, when should I do this Empower Hour? And I got a lot of new people following me, and they're like, who the hell is this dude in his mind, right? I'm like, okay, let's do a live stream on the most rambunctious day of the week, right in the middle of it all. So that's what's happening here on October 8th. I think I had 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific. I'm going to do that. I appreciate you all the comments I've had from people who are new, all the people who know me, my Patreon members, people who sent me text messages, follow me on Instagram. You've all said amazing, cool things to me. And that makes me happy. For all the stresses that I have in my life and what I'm trying to juggle, I know I'm on the path. The path is I have to make a life for myself. And I'm making a life for myself by helping other people where I'm reimbursed. But if I could change a life or two, or be a guide and be that mirror for you watching this video or for a client in a reading, I'm dialed in on my destiny. And I'm not alone in it. You're right here with me. You feel me? So thank you, everybody. Thank you. You can leave some comments down below. I got better videos coming. I got some time, but I wanted to put this out there. Really, honestly, not to talk about the transits. I just want to acknowledge all of you out there as we about to surf this wild month of eclipses in October. So until next time, thanks for hanging with me, and I'll see you on the next video.